great-great-grandmother who was kidnapped and sold into slavery. And this is what happens to Amina in the story. Uche is the daughter of a chief in Salaga, and she wants to take on more of a role in her father's kingdom. And so it's about these two women's lives intersecting. It's a book about power, about freedom, about trying to find yourself when the world around you is crumbling. And when I say that, I mean there's a war that goes on in Salaga, and at the same time, they're on the brink of colonialism because you have the British coming in from the south, you have the Germans coming in from the southeast, and to a lesser degree the French from the north. So you have all this going on, and these two young women are also trying to find themselves, find freedom, etc.
Would you like to start off?
Okay, so I'll give you a small sample today, and I'm going a little heavy. I'll start with Amina. At this point in the story, she's been kidnapped from her home, and she's been walking for days and days and days in a caravan, a human caravan, and she doesn't know where they're going. And at the time she was kidnapped, her mother was around, her grandmother was around, her two sisters, her twin sisters, and her brother. But they're down to, I think, one twin and a brother. So I'll read with that background information. The horseman returned, and with his accomplices divided the captives into smaller groups and sat them before oval troughs smeared with the muddy dregs of the previous group's leftover porridge. The woman slopped the thick porridge into the troughs, and the hollows steamed. Amina cupped her hand to scoop the scalding gruel, blew on it, and led it to Issa's lips. He shook his head and pinched his lips shut tight. No matter how much she begged him, he wouldn't eat. The sight of the skin puckering above his lips began to annoy her. She felt a strong urge to slap him. Hassana swallowed a handful of porridge and twisted her face but kept eating. Finally, Amina ate what Issa rejected. The millet porridge was sour with no sweetness. After eating, they were led to larger holes where water had collected, and from that they quenched their thirst. For the first time, Amina's mind and body had pause. Something about having a full stomach calmed her. She thought of Baba and Na, wondering what had become of them. She had left things incomplete with her mother, and then she hadn't called her out of the room. How would she ever write that? When the horseman said it was time to go, Amina got up, feeling full, not satisfied like after a good meal, but her body had more energy to keep going. Then down the hill they went. Below them spread groves of trees nestled in lush green grass. It was never this green in Botu, where Amina wished she could return, and strangely the sentiment of loss and nostalgia made her hope the big water would come soon. She didn't know what future it held, but she just wanted to stop walking. Issa fell. He didn't trip or stumble. His body was sucked down as if caught by the earth. His skeletal form stacked itself against the grey metallic sheen of the rock. Amina stared at the way his bony legs had crisscrossed, as if someone had delicately arranged him into a neat pile. It was Hassana who got down and tried to revive him. When they realized Amina and Hassana were stalling, a horseman and porter raced over shouting. As they drew closer, they saw what had happened. The horseman muttered and dismounted. He peeled Hassana off Issa and picked him up as if he were a bird. They carried him, then flung him over the rock. Above the rock, the circling vultures. Vultures were attracted to death. Amina imagined below them was a cemetery of people like Issa, who hadn't found the strength to go on. She pictured skeletons stacked on skeletons, or flesh on skeletons in Issa's case. Suddenly cold and afraid, she took Hassana's hand, small and dry, and tried to think of something to say to comfort her sister, but more to comfort herself. She felt the heaviness of her tongue. She swallowed several times before words would come out. Maybe this is better for him, she said. He was so weak. I hope he comes back as a spirit walker to haunt these people, said Hassana, snatching her hand away to wipe her face, wet with tears. When they left the rocky place, dying began to seem an attractive option.
Wow.